The news, of course, that the unemployment rate has hit 9.8%, highest level in 26 years. And here's the Wall Street Journal. Jobs data cloud the recovery. Look at this chart of the unemployment rate since the recession began, December 07, when it was 4.8%, now at 9.8%, expected to go to 10% before too long. Vice President Biden, who has been behind the stimulus efforts, a key part of the economic recovery as represented by this administration, spoke about all of this on Friday.
There will be peaks and valleys in this process. This is not a straight line to recovery, but we are recovering. We will recover.
We are recovering. We will recover. Which is it?
Well, we're not getting jobs. You know, when the stimulus package passed, the White House put out a chart of what the country would look like if it passed. And the unemployment rate peaks at around about 9, and then it comes down to, at this point, we should be around 7. We're not around 7. We're at 9.8. Now, they say, well, it would have been worse without us. A lot of people say this shows it didn't work. The fundamental problem is that for 30 years, we went on a spending binge. We are now recovering from that spending binge. There is no magic elixir you can create to ease the pain of that. The economy has to come back to some sustainable level with some sustainable level of debt, and there's just nothing we can do to make that hangover even easier.
The problem, though, is that we didn't get here into this particular crisis, the crisis that started where that graph started in December 07, because of big government spending. We got there because of a collapse of the financial system, brought on in large part by bad regulatory decisions. I mean, you can make a lot of this. You can make a lot of arguments about how it happened, but that's part of it. It's not just spending, and it may be that spending is identified by you as part of the problem here. But I think there's a great argument to be made that it is definitely the solution too. When EJ says they may not call it a second stimulus, I think you're right, because I think stimulus has been turned into a toxic term. But I do think fiscal policy is going to be a big part of bringing in unemployment back to rational levels.
Well, go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Well, where's the money going to come from? I mean, I think, talking to Democrats, the money is just not there. They will wrap some of this into a transportation bill. But the money is just not there. I find no hunger for a second stimulus, absolutely. And the second thing, it's not federal spending that got us into this mess. It's private debt. It's credit card debt. It's a fundamental societal problem. And we can try to change the sort of fizz of private debt for a lot more public debt, and we're doing some of that. But it's simply not going to get us out of this problem.
But that's also the question. Well, Mike, let me turn to you on this, which is, should there be a focus on relieving the debt, reducing the debt, or should, as a lot of more liberal economists are saying, you got to keep priming the pump if you're going to do something specifically about jobs?
Well, I'm with David on this. I don't think out-of-control spending is a solution to pain created by a generation of bipartisan out-of-control spending. But the politics are going to take this over, because even though Washington is obsessed with health care, a huge issue, in the kitchen tables of America, jobs are the issue. And in the kitchen table politics that are going to rule the midterm elections, the Obama stimulus strategy, the type of methods they use to inject money into the economy, kind of taking a big curve through the spending machinery of the Democrat interest groups, has been a failure. People think it's a failure on their kitchen table. Perception is reality in politics. And we're heading toward a bad midterm for the Democrats, which is going to change a lot of these politics. And I think there'll be a backlash against this.
EJ, what's fair about that is that people know one thing. The banks did get bailed out. They seem to be doing a lot better, but people are still out of their jobs.
Right. Well, there are a lot of people who think the banks got a lot more money than they did, which is always a problem when you are a Democrat in power. And, of course, the bailouts started under Bush. But David, to his credit, good conservatives, blaming capitalism. He's not talking about government. He's saying that the system itself didn't work because we accumulated all this debt. And we ought to be smart enough as a country to say you do things sequentially. When you are in a hole economically, you need to dig out. That's a time when you need government. There's a time later to bring spending into balance. And I think what Obama is going to do is to try to lay out a vision that in the short term, we got to get people back to work, and in the long term, we got to deal with the debt.
First of all,
that's possible.
Let me show you some really interesting numbers that you may not have seen this week. We'll put it up on the screen. 17%. That's the broad unemployment rate when it includes people who are working part-time who can't get a full-time job. 33. The average number of hours in a work week. Why? Because employers are not fully employing their workers. They're working more part-time than full-time, and that they may move them back up to 40 before they hire more people. And then 64,000, the number of construction jobs lost in September. All of these numbers striking. Is the president doing a good enough job selling government as the solution?
No, I think he needs to do a better job to push back against a lot of empty anti-government rhetoric. He's tried at the end of that healthcare speech to do precisely that. But I think there is more work that needs to be done. But your numbers point to the real problem we have, which is even in a recovery, employers are not going to hire new people before they give those people they already have more hours. That's why it is going to take us a long time to get out of
where's
this.
the proof it's working?
where are the jobs?
We have a stimulus package. We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars we don't have. They promised it would bring unemployment rate down to 7%. It hasn't done so.
Yeah, there are no jobs
Bill,
from
what
this
was
program.
the alternate plan, though? The Republican plan, the alternate plan to the stimulus was a 5-year spending freeze. How would we be doing right now?
No, the Republicans had a $450 billion stimulus package. Yeah. The problem could be we could just pump money into the economy. People are scaling back. We could pump money in, but people want to get their balance sheets balanced. And so they're just not going to spend money no matter how much government puts in. What the economists call it the multiplier effect. You're just going to have a small multiplier effect. You're not going to generate a lot of economic activity with federal spending. And that just could be our situation.
And there were bipartisan ways to put that money into the economy a lot faster than his plan did. He went through the appropriations way. If he lived up to his campaign rhetoric and had a bipartisan approach, he could have got a payroll tax holiday for working people, would have put a lot of consumption money in the economy a lot quicker.
Bipartisan approach on the stimulus? Really? Bipartisan approach?
Yeah,
Republicans
absolutely.
would be willing to
if
go
it was
along
a
with
payroll
that?
tax holiday, you would have got at least half of the caucus.
The real problem is in making a deal with some Republicans, they cut aid to states. What's helping pull this back? States are raising taxes and cutting spending. You needed a lot more help to state governments, and Obama had more of it, and it was gotten rid of in this compromise.